Hello and welcome to the Harrogate podcast with me, Andrew Gray. Today, for the very first time, the Harrogate podcast is on the road, believe it or not. I'm here with Jem Henderson, the founder of Indieworx collective Harrogate at 53 Grove Road, which is near the fire station in Harrogate. Jem, thank you very much for hosting today's podcast, and thank you for showing me around before we started.
Thank you for having me.
I've never been to this space before, although we've known each other some time, and I knew you were involved in the Indieworx concept. Just wandering around here really is a sight to behold. I encourage any listener, if they have the chance, and if the founder here allows you, and I'm sure she will, come and have a look at Grove Road. It's quite a unique space. It does not feel like you're in Harrogate, sort of rarefied, dignified Harrogate, not at all. It's modern, it's funky, it's indie, it's one of the most unusual, interesting places I have been to, and it's a pleasure to come here. So well done with what you've produced so far, and let's go and explain to listeners what it is that you have done. So Jem, you explained to me earlier that Indieworx opened, I think, 9 days ago, so we are in its infancy.
Yes.
Explain to our listeners what is the Indieworx collective, please.
So Indieworx Collective is a co-working space and innovation hub in the heart of the Harrogate business community. The plan started around 18 months ago when I read Harrogate Borough Council's Economic Growth Strategy 2017 to 2024 document.
You must be one of the few people who've read that.
Well, I guess, yeah, probably. I don't know why I read it. Anyway, I read this document, and it's really interesting. It talks about a lot of things, positive things about Harrogate, like we've got a lot of startups here, we've got a really well-educated population, but it also talks about the fact that that well-educated population get on the train or get in their cars at 8 o'clock in the morning and go somewhere else because there isn't enough professional work here. A lot of people in this town work in restaurants or shops or, poorly paid jobs. So the idea was born essentially to go, well, how can we create better jobs for Harrogate, make more money for the people here? So I rang Alistair Forbes at the council, who is a absolutely fantastic chap, and went, so Alistair, I've read this document, and as far as I can see, this is not a strategy document, this is a vision document. This is talking about where you want to be. You want more creative and digital businesses, you want more office space. How are you going to get there? And he went, and I went, okay. And I went off and I wrote a 20-page business plan with the help of the adventure programme, and yeah, kind of went through some trials and tribulations, but yeah, we opened here 9 days ago. We had our launch on Halloween. We were really lucky. Cold Bath Brewing donated a 24-pack of their lovely beer.
Good for them.
Yep, and got some just cheap Asda pizzas. And yeah, launched with a bang. I was terrified. 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting on the desk in reception and nobody has come. And then Paul Rawlinson from Baltherson's popped in to say hello. And then somebody else came, and then somebody else came. And then by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I think we were pretty much full. And it was like, yes, I've done it. Yeah. So yeah, that was our inception.
And for those who don't know, Jem, what is a sort of co-working space?
Okay, so I guess co-working is a pretty new business model. It just is it's a shared office space. It's open plan. You can either drop in and just sit where you want, take a desk, rock out on the super fast Wi-Fi, have some coffee and put your headphones on and crack on and do some work. Or you could take a permanent desk and be here all the time, have your PC on the desk. But essentially, co-working, for me, the co stands for community, and that's at the heart of what we're doing here. So I have been a freelancer for 6 years, working from home, on my own, talking to the fish. And honestly, you go a bit crackers. So the idea of building a community hub for businesses, that's one of the places where the idea came from. So I guess it's community working for me. I don't know if that's technically what it stands for. That's definitely what our ethos is, though.
Got it. And so, is it expensive? I'm assuming not.
No. So we're a limited company, but we run on a social enterprise model. I am not here to make money essentially, because I'm a bit crackers. So if you just want to come for the day, it's 18 quid. That includes all your tea and coffee, and we've got really good coffee from North Star over in Leeds.
It did look good.
It's pretty tasty. So essentially, if you're a freelancer who would normally sit in a coffee shop, you probably spend 18 quid sitting there eating sandwiches and drinking your overpriced flat whites, where you can come here and do exactly the same thing, but instead of being somewhere where it's noisy, there's coffee cups and grinding beans and screaming children, it's a professional environment, but it's also quite relaxed. So if you've got, I don't know, if you're a graphic designer and you need some words doing for your poster, there's probably somebody in the space who's a writer who you can bounce some ideas off, because that's at the heart of what we're doing. It's about people talking to one another and everybody growing together, so the sum is greater than the total of the parts of the collective.
And although you've only just started, do you actually formalise that within those who are already in the space? And by the way, there was lots of people in the space. It was totally buzzing and professional, and people getting work done in a nice, open way. But do you have like every Thursday everybody gets together and says what they do in a sort of networky way, or is it just much more relaxed and you get to know who you get to know?
It's a bit of both. So we've already had our first networking event, which was called Cereal Networking. Essentially, that is breakfast cereal. I bought, those variety packs of Kellogg's with the Cocoa Pops.
My kids love them.
We bought some of those, and you can sit and eat a bowl of cornflakes and chat about your business problems. But we're not trying to be pushy. We don't want salespeople in the space. I think that would really ruin the ethos. I don't want somebody going, I can fix your problems. I want somebody who goes, can I help you with your problem? And I think that's really key to what we're trying to do here. But yeah, we're running all sorts of events. We've got an event 29th of November. We've got Lightstart Apps coming over from Platform in Leeds. They've been running an event called the Digital Coffee Morning, really successfully for 2 years, which is where they get people together to basically brainstorm an app which can benefit people. And so they're going to come, and that's kind of more of a formal networking thingy that we're doing. But it's a mix and match. I do want people to come here and not be afraid to ask for help, because I think as a business owner, that's one of the hardest things you can do. But we want to make it so it's not hard. You just go, I need this, and somebody hopefully will go, I can help you with that. And that's it. That's Indieworx.
And how many businesses can you have at any one time?
I think we're set up, we've currently got 24 spaces, that's formal desk spaces. We've got the meeting room, which is 8 people. It's got a 50-inch screen, so if you've got kind of like a presentation to do for external clients, you can come here and use that. Or if you're running a workshop for a small number of people. We've actually got another space which we're sitting in today, which is a really light, bright, colourful room, which we're going to be using for breakout events for the big corporates through to, we had a lady in this morning talking about running a printmaking class. So yeah, a mix. The idea is Indieworx Collective, if you see the logo, the Indieworx bit is written in this really scruffy, squiggly writing, and then Collective is quite formal, because what we're trying to do is bring together these creative types with the businessy types. I mean, I have purple hair and tattoos, but I think I have a foot in both camps. I'm really entrepreneurial and actually secretly very sensible. Don't tell anyone.
I won't, despite the not sensible looking hair.
Yeah, but there's also that bit of me that, is creative, I've got a master's degree in creative writing, I'm a poet, I've been involved in things like the Harrogate Fringe Festival, all sorts of arty, weird and wonderful things. In fact, I've got an art degree. But I think one of the things that I don't sound big-headed, but that I'm really good at is being a translator between those two camps. It's what my job has been for the last couple of years at Digital Catapult, to be able to know how to say what one team is doing to another, whether that's government and business, whether that's academia and government, just to sit in the middle and go, I can help you talk to one another. Essentially, that's on a small scale what Indieworx is about creating that space for people to communicate effectively.
And describe for our listeners the Dekor, because this is not a standard office yawn. This is unusual.
We were quite lucky. we unfortunately lost £12,500 worth of funding just before we opened, and that was my working capital. So there was a bit of a panic, and we had to kind of scrabble and find, I had all my desks planned out, and we bought some of those desks, but what we also did was we got given some tables from Major Tom's. We got a fantastic deal from Steve over at Poolbank Vintage Interiors, who did these snazzy 1970s school chairs that are
I'm
brown.
not sure pointing on the podcast is going to work.
Yeah, no, I'll point and trying to describe it. We've got 1970s school chairs. These chairs that we're sitting on were donated. They're just from IKEA. Yeah, it's a haphazard, I guess, is the furniture. We got given a foosball table, which is very important. I think it's the rules as a co-working space. You have to have a foosball table.
Or a table tennis table, perhaps.
But the thing is about table tennis is if you hit a ball and it goes, and then you're going to get something in the eye.
True.
I mean, you're going to have to be seriously playing table foosball to get. Yeah. Anyway, so in terms of the artwork, we've got, it's a real mix of stuff that I have picked up from comic conventions, train spotting posters. Once again, Steve from Space, the vintage shop, and Poolbank Vintage Interiors has loaned us film posters and music posters. So we've got an Iggy Pop poster up, which I'm pretty proud of. They are for sale. Please don't buy them though.
But not much Star Trek, because I see on your LinkedIn status that you are a Trekkie, a Trekster. What's the term?
I think
Trekker?
I'd say Trekkie. I am a giant Star Trek fan. There is one picture of the Starship Enterprise, and technically we have named the rooms. This is Voyager,
okay.
That's the Enterprise, the upstairs space, which we can't open just yet, but that's going to be 10 forward. If you are a Trekkie, you will totally get these references. I think the boardroom is the ready room, a la Captain Picard.
What you're trying to say, though, is that this is bespoke, it's unusual, it's unique.
Yeah, it's definitely a place you have to come and see to get. And I think we've been really lucky in that the people that have come to visit walk in and go, I get this. So we had a chap walk in, Andy Backhouse, that did our branding. Amazing, lovely bloke. He walked in the other day and said, oh, it's just like my front room. And I went, yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to create. I don't want it to feel like a stuffy office. I want it to feel like somewhere you want to be, that you want to work in. In the summer, we've got plans to get some of those German beer hall style benches and put them outside so that people have got a little bit of an outside space to be in. We've got a gardener who's just joined as a member, who's talking about helping us out with what the layout of that's going to look like. So it's just nice.
Are there any types of people or types of businesses that you wouldn't want here?
I don't want credit companies. I don't want debt collectors. So I was introduced to the concept of the B Corporation a few months ago, and that really felt like it aligned with our values. So we want businesses, yes, we're here to make money, but we want businesses that have an eye on the social consequences of what it is that they're doing, and I think that we are a social company, and that's who we want in. Thankfully, we've been really lucky. Everybody that's come has been a delight. I don't want to say, oh, you definitely can't come here, but if you deal with money in a way that makes me go, I'm not sure about that, then probably not. I once worked for a Saudi academic who had written a book analysing text written by Muslim women from a feminist perspective, and it was brilliant. It was really eye-opening for me to work with this chap. And then at some point, I think he asked me to write an article about Yemen, and I just went, I'm really sorry, I can't do that, because that's the point. I went, I'm not comfortable with that, and I think it's really important to have those morals for me as a business person. I think I read somewhere that the father of capitalism essentially said that capitalism was always going to be tied up with this notion of God. This is veering off wildly, But because with God at the heart of capitalism, there is always that moral core. And as we've kind of become more secular and atheist as a society, have we moved away from this idea that you have to be doing good or you're going to hell? Is there any reason why a billionaire is seen as a good thing? I personally don't think a billionaire is a good thing. I don't see the difference between a person that hoards pixels of cash or a person that hoards cats and newspapers from 1975. I think they're both incredibly unhealthy. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. I didn't see it going that way, but thank you for that diversion. There are lots of thank yous we talked about before we started the podcast. You've already mentioned one, Alistair Forbes, Harrogate Borough Council, a great guy. People in Harrogate should speak to him if they want to know exactly what's going on with the council and so on, in terms of businesses and the interrelationship between the council and the businesses. But there are lots of other people you mentioned, and this is your opportunity, Jem, to put it out there, and I will connect them on LinkedIn and thank them as well. But there was, I think it was Paul Berwin,
We're actually incredibly lucky. So this project has been an 18-month or so slog. And in that process, we have built up a huge amount of goodwill. So that includes Paul Berwin, as you were saying. Now,
Berwin Sisters.
Of Berwin Solicitors. Now, Paul has been involved right from the start. I went for a coffee with him and he was telling me a story about Estonia. Now, Paul is, he won't mind me saying this, is big on Estonia. And he was saying that when the USSR fell, Estonia had all of their infrastructure ripped out. And they had two options. They could put that infrastructure back in as was, or they could look to the future and say, well, what's coming and how do we build towards that instead? And now Estonia has some of the fastest internet in the whole wide world. It has its health care records on the blockchain. You can become an e-citizen of the country. And you know, it's amazing, but it's because they went, how do we build towards the future? And that's what Indieworx is trying to do. So we've got things like, we've got a LoRaWAN gateway, which for those non-technical people is a network gateway specifically designed for sensors, which only uses a tiny amount of battery and data. So that means that if we've got sensors put somewhere, instead of them being on Wi-Fi and the battery lasting 30 minutes, it lasts for 10 years. So we've created this innovation platform, which is free for everybody to use, which hopefully will allow us to, you know, become what I'd like to see a smart town. So we've already got the I don't know if people have seen the parking sensors that we've got on all of the parking spaces in town.
I wondered what they were.
So that's partly, I'm not going to take entire credit for it, but I had a conversation with Matt Roberts at the council 18 months ago, and I was talking about this, and he went, oh, that's really exciting. And now we've got it. We've got smart parking in Harrogate, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. I'm not going to take credit. Matt Roberts, he as well at the council is a fantastic mover and shaker. We've also got other people to thank. So we had a visit, Andrew Stringer from Stringer Mallard popped in a couple of weeks ago.
He's an accountant.
Yep, he's an accountant. He's, by his own admission, not a normal accountant. I think that means not boring. He did have a very snazzy jumper on. So maybe that's true. But he came to give us some free advice about investment and offered us actually free mentoring, because I don't know if you've already gathered, but I am not very commercially minded. I'm a bit pie in the sky. I definitely could do with some help in that area. So he's really kindly offered to do that for us, and I really appreciate that. We've had goodwill from, as I said, Steve from the Vintage Shop, Andrew Backhouse, who did our branding for a very incredibly reasonable cost. Gosh, the list is really long.
Yes, it is. And yeah, well done to all those people. I'm sure there'll be many more people getting involved throughout the Indieworx journey. Can we talk about your personal journey? Because I think that's going to be of interest to people as well. I know that you were, I think as a 16-year-old, homeless.
Yeah.
And now you are, however many years on, doesn't matter, founding this incredible collective space here and having, you know, been hugely successful in the creative world. Would you tell us your story, if you would?
So I was born in Harrogate, born and bred, in the hospital that isn't there anymore on Nesborough Road, and had a troubled upbringing. And yeah, I got kicked out of home at 16 years old. I lived in a squat just round the corner from here, where the mould stretched from the window to the opposite wall, and we were all incredibly poorly. I lived in the Robert Street family hostel for a number of months, and kind of had to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I had a breakdown at, I think I was 19. I was an apprentice painter and decorator. I essentially learned how to do the painting, and then suddenly had all this space in my head to think, and just didn't go so well. Too much thinking, and got signed off sick. I was actually off sick for a long time, but in that time I did 3 degrees. I did an art degree, an English literature degree, and then a creative writing master's. I was incredibly lucky that after my creative writing master's finished, I went, do you know what, I'm ready, it's time. I got a job as a tech copywriter at In Technology, the local company, which I think is now something else. I did 8 months there and got made redundant, but at that point in time I'd gone, do you know what, the pace of the business world isn't keeping up with me, so I set up my own copywriting business and kind of went from there. I've written stuff about everything from hair loss through to blockchain and everything in between. And I've spent the last 2 years working for Digital Catapult, which is the government-funded initiative to grow the digital economy across the country. I worked for the IoT UK programme. That has been, frankly, the best job I've ever had. It's been amazing. So that was kind of started out just doing a bit of social media and a bit of writing, and really became a really small team. So, you know, the programme grew and grew in the direction that the people that made up the programme took it. So it was a real opportunity to go, how can I help develop tech, from a quite high up perspective. And it was amazing. So whether that was working with the University of Cambridge and the University of Warwick, talking about autonomous vehicles and amazing concepts, going up to Edinburgh and running a workshop on blockchain, using Lego, which I'm really hoping that we're going to be able to bring down here and run in the space, and working with some really inspiring startups, like one called Let Us Grow in Bristol, which have just won a fantastic award over in Amsterdam and won €100,000 to help develop their technology. Talking to all of these startups was another place that this was born from, because it was amazing. You're talking to people my age and younger who come along and are like, this idea is going to change the world and it's going to make millions of pounds and it's going to be the best thing ever. I'm like, yeah, I'll have some of that, thank you. So yeah, I built this to just be a little factory dynamo hold for people that want to do more and be better, whether that's locally, whether that's internationally, whatever it looks like.
And good luck with it. And what does the future hold for Indieworx? Or do we not possibly know if there are only 9 days of opening?
There's loads of ideas. So because of my past, I am really keen to support vulnerable people. Getting open was quite a lengthy process, and I kind of had to enter this corporate world, and I came up with the phrase disruptive collaboration, which is what we're doing, but it's a really corporate take on what we're doing. And I guess I didn't lose sight of what the ethos was, but all the council meetings and the planning committee meetings and the bank meetings, all that other stuff, it's hard to keep your creative head on. And then I bumped into a friend of mine who he's been struggling with alcoholism for a long time, and he'd managed to kick the habit, and he'd started an open university course in games design and illustration, and he'd been working at a local retailer, and he hated the job because it wasn't challenging him in any way, and he got a job as a chef again. And then I know a lot of chefs, and I know a lot of chefs with drinking problems because the unsavoury hours and all that sort of thing. And he was talking about this journey, and he stank of booze, and he's trying. He's back at is it Horizons?
Yes.
Trying to kick that habit again. But he was talking about this, and I just thought, but this will keep happening, not just for this person, but for other people, if we don't create a space where people can see people doing better. Now, we have potentially got somebody coming in who used to work at Rockstar Games, you know, and I would love to introduce this friend of mine to that person, just to go, here you go, here's somebody that I hope can inspire you to get off that grinding mill of poverty and booze, and hopefully inspire you to do what you really want to do.
And that takes me nicely to one of my last questions, is how can people of Harrogate help you to help Indieworx?
So we have just done, to my great discomfort, a crowdfunding video which should be going live in hopefully the next week. We're just sorting out the music for it, because essentially we do need Harrogate's help. We're a community-led organisation, whether that's we want people in and using the space, coming to the workshops that we've got planned, coming to the events, even, you know, coming in and saying, I want to run a workshop. We're really keen to support that. But we're also, you know, we would like to see some donations, whether that's just from people buying me and Dean a beer after all our hard work, whether it's from coming in and taking a desk, or whether it's, you know, perhaps from some bigger organisations who are keen to see the work that we're doing at Indieworx, because we are here for the benefit of the economy of Harrogate. And
those large businesses, Jem, could sponsor a desk, is that right?
Yes, so we'd be able to sponsor a desk. What we'd really like to see is keen business people who think that what we're doing is exactly the kind of thing that Harrogate needs, because it is, to go, okay, well, we will sponsor a desk, which means that you can put a freelancer on that desk and help them go from, you know, the idea is we have freelancers who perhaps have started their businesses on their dining tables. We see ourselves as the stepping stones from there through to their own office and, you know, maybe the new unicorn startup. I know that Harrogate Borough Council talks about the Silicon Dale instead of Silicon Valley, and we are really keen to support that. I think there are a lot of really smart people in Harrogate doing some really cool things, and we just want to support that.
Jem, how do people contact you? How do they find you?
So we've got our website, which is www.indieworxcollective. That's Indieworx with an X, because we're edgy like that. We're really active on social media. We've got our own Facebook page. We've got Twitter is INDWORX, and Instagram if you want pictures of rainbows and dogs and our snazzy space.
Or they can just come along to 53, is it?
Yes, 53 Grove Road. Pop in, come and have a cup of our really good coffee, and have a look around. Come talk to us.
Jem, it's been my pleasure interviewing you, and especially doing it here on the road. I won't forget it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.